They rode out before dawn, their armor glinting like shards of ice beneath a cold October sky. Less than 300 knights, banners snapping in the wind, facing an army 10 times their number. The odds were absurd, suicidal even. Yet as their commander gave the order to lower lances, no one turned back. This was not a battle they expected to survive. It was one they refused to lose. This is the story of the Battle of Agincourt in 1415, a moment when outnumbered English knights and archers, exhausted and starving, shattered one of the most powerful armies in Europe. But it's also the story of a mindset, the iron conviction of warriors who... It began with mud, thick, clinging mud. King Henry V had led his army across France, hoping to claim his ancestral rights to the French crown. By the time he reached Agincourt, his soldiers were ill, hungry, and half their number had fallen behind. The French, meanwhile, had assembled a glittering host. Estimates range from 20,000 to 30,000 men, most of them heavily armored knights. The English numbered fewer than 6,000, and perhaps only 1,000 of those were knights. The rest? Archers, peasants with longbows, weary from weeks of retreat.
When the French commanders saw the tiny English line, they were almost insulted. Some nobles even argued over who would capture Henry and claim the ransom. Wine was poured. Jokes were made. After all, what could a sick, muddy army possibly do against France's finest?
Then came the rain. All night it fell, turning the narrow field between the armies into a swamp. And when the French knights charged at dawn, their horses sank, their armor weighed them down, and their perfect formation collapsed into chaos. The English longbowmen, standing behind rows of sharpened stakes, unleashed a storm of arrows that tore through armor and men alike. The sound was said to be like rain on a roof, steady, relentless, and deadly. Within minutes, the flower of French chivalry was floundering in the muck, crushed under their own comrades. The English, once so pitifully outnumbered, surged forward with axes and swords. What followed was not a noble clash of knights, but a brutal struggle in knee-deep mud. Men drowned in their armor, nobles begged for mercy and were struck down. The discipline and endurance of Henry's troops transformed chaos into triumph.
By sunset, the field was a graveyard. Thousands of French knights lay dead, including many of the kingdom's most powerful lords. The English lost fewer than 400 men. It was a victory so shocking that even Henry seemed unable to believe it. Chroniclers wrote that after the fighting ended, he fell to his knees and whispered, "Not unto us, O Lord, but to thy name give the glory."
But the story doesn't end there. The victory at Agincourt wasn't just a fluke of weather or terrain. It was the culmination of a transformation in medieval warfare. The longbow had shattered the supremacy of the mounted knight. The age of heavy cavalry, of nobles ruling battlefields by birthright, was ending. Common soldiers with discipline and training could now humble kings. Still, for all the tactics and innovation, what makes Agincourt unforgettable is the sheer audacity of those who fought. These men knew they were surrounded, sick, and outnumbered 10 to 1, yet they held their ground. They trusted their king, their comrades, and their skill. And in doing so, they carved their names into legend. Centuries later, Shakespeare would immortalize them in Henry V, giving voice to the bond forged in that desperate fight. "We few, we happy few, we band of brothers." A line that still echoes through military history, inspiring those who face impossible odds.
The Knights of Agincourt didn't just fight a larger army. They fought the very idea of inevitability. They proved that numbers alone do not decide fate, that courage, cunning, and unity can make 300 men seem like 3,000, and that sometimes the smallest army can win the greatest victory, not because of what they had, but because of what they refused to surrender.
When the last arrows fell silent and the field of Agincourt lay still, one truth emerged from the mud and blood. Greatness is not measured in strength of numbers, but in the strength of resolve.
Enjoying this journey through history? Smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring the bell so you never miss a 5-minute dive into the past. Got a historical mystery or epic story you want us to cover next? Drop it in the comments. Your idea could be our next episode on History in 5.